Sorry about that. Let me go over it all again. So, welcome back to the Zach F1 channel. Today's live stream will be a little bit different. It's only going to be about 30-40 minutes because I've got another surprise for you. I bet you couldn't guess. I know everyone can probably guess what it's going to be. But basically, I'll have to go in about 40 minutes to get ready for that. So basically, in that span of time, I'm going to try to help everyone as much as I can with their teams. I'll also give hints on my team, of course. But basically, yeah, before I do any of that, sorry about not getting the post-practice 2 video out. I had my university graduation yesterday, so physically didn't have enough time to get it. Literally woke up today, straight on, boom, shower, let's get onto it. Watched a bit of the practice 3, and my ad is going to look very juicy. But let's get the chat back up now. You can all hear me. That's not what I want to watch. Let's get back onto my channel, and then we're good to go. No, that's the one I streamed a minute ago. Where's it gone? But yeah, sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully everyone can hear me now. But we should be ready to go. So, what we've learned so far is McLaren looking a little bit ropes for them. But I'm not too worried because Norris looked okay in practice 3. In practice 1 and 2, they didn't look amazing. But apparently their long runnings are going to be pretty decent. For me, it's still Ferrari look the most juicy. I mean, Russell put in a blistering lap. We can actually have a look at that if we come over here, because let's have a look at what it was, because I know Russell was on he was on, I guess you could say, first place, yeah, for FP3. Where's it gone? There's Azerbaijan. Practice 3. Yeah, and then that's the thing, though. Charles Leclerc right there. And Leclerc's been right there all the time. A 143.4, a 142.5. And obviously, it doesn't matter too much or practice 1 because they're doing other, like, simulations and stuff. But it really does look like Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren are up there. Interesting enough, hello everyone, yes, I will talk about that, no negative, but basically, interesting enough, Red Bull looked pretty decent, but if it really is true, and they aren't, like, moving about their engine modes and stuff, they're really going to struggle in both qualifying and in the race, because Max Verstappen was losing so much time in that final sector, and it would be great F1 fantasy-wise, if they weren't doing too amazing, because of course that means we're going to be fine picking McLaren, Mercedes, or Ferrari. But I can't help but think Red Bull are hiding something. They have to be. No way are they losing that much time on the straights. They've always been okay on the straights. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, hello everyone. Hope you're all doing well today. Like I mentioned right at the start, today's live stream is only going to be about 30-40 minutes long. So basically, get in as much help as you want, but also, yeah, just put in your whatever you're doing, and I'll try to help you out on anything as possible, and I'll go through everything. Look at Team 3, by the way. And if I, oh, that's the wrong one to do. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. It doesn't make any sense. Honestly, Sebastian, the only chip I would suggest is, you can see in the chat right now, there's already 2 people talking about no negative. So I would say if you have Magnussen and Sargent, fair play, no negative it, because then potentially you could use your transfers elsewhere and then transfer them out right now. But for me, because it's a shame you have to get rid of Leclerc, because I really do think Norris Leclerc are the top 2 again. But for me, if you only have Sargent, you could do something like this, where you go to Zhou. I know it's a shame. You don't really want to have Zhou in your team. And then you pick whoever else you can afford. For me, sadly, it's only George Russell. I say sadly. He looked actually pretty decent in practice 3. But I just think if you can afford to do it with your 2 free transfers, do it. But then if you have Magnussen and Sargent, understandable. But that's normally about it with the chips, realistically. Behrman's price still hasn't changed, which is just crazy. 15 million for, I mean, we saw him in practice 3. Straight into the barrier. I mean, he's going to make those silly mistakes, you know. He's still getting into his F1 career, you could say. But then, yeah, I know. But it's one of those things where when you're in this like tough position, especially for my team, I don't have no negative anymore. You sort of just have to risk it, because I don't want to take a -10 to use Bottas, Sargent, and look, this is the team you can make with a -10. And I think if you're risking a -10 to do it, then you may as well risk the DNF, because -10, -20 is not a great it's not a great way to look at it. But the -10 team you could get Leclerc, I believe. Potentially. No. See, I couldn't even get Leclerc with the -10, and realistically, that's the only big driver I'd want in my team. Because otherwise, it would be Piastri and Zhou. And honestly, with where McLaren's been, I think McLaren will do well, but putting a triple McLaren up this weekend seems a little bit scary. But that's why I think with -10, for me personally, it's worth risking taking Russell, but only if you're in a similar situation to me. Otherwise, Russell is not a good asset. Russell or Sainz with Norris. So like I just mentioned, yeah, Russell's had, like Michael mentioned, Russell's been having a few issues. So if you can afford to get up to the Sainz, I would go with Sainz instead, just for the safety, because Russell and Sainz aren't going to be your 2 times drivers. They're going to be your second premium driver, realistically. Let me zoom out a bit so everyone can see exactly what's going on. Yeah, it's just a hard situation with the Russell one. Will Magnussen lose value? No. I don't believe he'll lose value because he's inactive. If he does lose value, that's another thing that I'll have to rant about on my next video, because that will be ridiculous if he loses value. So I'd be very surprised if he does. Inactive drivers don't really lose. I'm pretty sure it's physically impossible for them to. And then Russell plus Ferrari, or Sainz and Mercedes. So yeah, that's the thing. I still think Ferrari looked much better than Mercedes this weekend. So I would go with Russell and Ferrari, because Ferrari, I think the top 2 constructors again this weekend will be McLaren and Ferrari. But I think Mercedes will be in the gist of it quite a bit more. But I do think it's fully McLaren Ferrari this weekend, and that's why if you have to go Russell Ferrari, it's better than Sainz and Mercedes, because of course Ferrari constructors are more important. Hamilton gonna rock the race with low downforce setup. Not sure about qualifying. Yeah, we'll see how Hamilton does. He's not looked amazing so far this weekend. I mean, of course we know there's more pace from Hamilton because it is Lewis Hamilton, but honestly, it's gonna be hard to beat the McLarens and the Ferraris this weekend. 100% the Ferraris. The McLarens look all right. Hopefully this race pace really is true, but I say this like every other weekend, where it's like, oh, but the race pace will come in, and then we see on the race pace there's just absolutely no difference with all of the teams, and it all depended on qualifying. However, Baku, like we've mentioned, well, actually I haven't mentioned this yet, but Baku you can easily overtake on, and that's why I'm very scared about Red Bull, because Red Bull, if they really are that slow, they're going to struggle. They're really going to struggle. Would you do Piastri, Leclerc, top 2? I could do that. I could do that, where I drop out Norris and take out... so you could do something like this, Piastri onto here, and then you still have enough money for Bottas or Zhou. It doesn't really matter which one you go for. I mean, I would go for Bottas because he's still a little bit better than Zhou. The issue is, like I keep mentioning, where'd you put your 2 times? Because for me, the safe 2 times still is Lando Norris, because he has the team backing him. Stella's been talking non-stop this weekend about how Piastri will be helping Norris out. So it is, like I've been mentioning, Piastri's still a fantastic asset, but he wouldn't be my 2 times. But for instance, if you went for a team like this, and you times 2 Leclerc and went for the Leclerc win, 100%. But it's who do you think's going to win? And Leclerc times 2, Norris times 2 is very close. Very, very close. But then it comes down to fastest lap as well. It's going to be extremely tight. So realistically, it is one or the other. It's one of, you pick Norris is your times 2, and you take in Russell. That's the first option if you really do think McLaren will be up there. Or you go with Where's he gone? Your Leclerc ×2 with a Piastri. And then you drop down to a certain man such as Bottas. That's the two real big options. Yeah, I know. He says he will. Only time will tell when it comes down to seeing what will happen with him. It'll be interesting though, because we didn't see it in Monza, and when I was watching Monza, I was so adamant that on that final lap, I didn't think Norris would get the fastest lap, but I was so adamant that he would move over for Lando Norris and let him have the second place, because I thought second and third, not too much of a difference. But we'll see what happens with that. Right, so Leclerc plus Mercedes or Hamilton plus Ferrari. Again, nah, don't worry. Honestly, I could not be having vodka Coke right now in the morning. It is just Coke Zero, I promise everyone. I don't drink and stream. I tell you what, you'll make a lot of mistakes if you drink and stream. But yeah, sorry. Leclerc, Mercedes, or Hamilton and Ferrari. I still think constructor-wise, they are more important. But Leclerc ×2, that's where it comes down to it. I do think if Leclerc gets the ×2, he's not going to get as many points as he did get in Monza. So I think the safe bet is to go for the Hamilton-Ferrari. So playing it safe, Hamilton-Ferrari. If you want to play that juicy, risky move, then Leclerc and Mercedes. What was the best possible team in Monza? Oh, good question actually. I believe it would have been Albon, Colapinto, Valtteri Bottas, Leclerc ×2, Norris, Ferrari, McLaren, something along the lines of that. Because yeah, you had McLaren as the top dog, Ferrari as the second best. Yeah, so it was definitely McLaren and Ferrari. And I believe that Bottas did quite well. Yeah, Bottas, very well. Obviously, you had Behrman getting 9 points. Obviously, yeah, Magnussen instead. But I doubt people would have had him in the team with Norris and Leclerc. But yeah, it would have been Leclerc ×2. Norris is your second premium driver. With Colapinto, Albon, Bottas, McLaren, Ferrari. Right, what about Norris × Sainz? How much will you have left? Yeah, so Norris × Sainz is an interesting one because I physically can't do it. I'll be 0.2 million down. For anyone who's actually interested, let me get all of this down so everyone can see my team value. So right now, I'm on team value of 120.7 million. So it's not bad, but it's not amazing either. So I can't afford the Norris and Sainz. And honestly, I think if you're going for Norris and Sainz, I don't think it's the way. You're either, like I said, there's two options. You go Norris full throttle, and then, I mean, I guess that means Sainz, but it'd be Sainz or Russell. It doesn't really matter who you pick on those two, because neither of them are going to be in the top three. And then you've got the other option of going for Leclerc ×2, and then moving with a Piastri or a Hamilton, someone along those lines. Sorry, wait, where did I miss that? Oh, my bad. I currently have Leclerc, Russell, Hülkenberg, Albon, Colapinto with McLaren and Mercedes. So we'll take a -10 to bring in Ferrari for Mercedes and Piastri for Russell. Honestly, that is the first -10 this week. Actually, not the first -10 like it is. I've made a few -10 teams myself. That is worth the -10. Justin, I would 100% do that because Ferrari look better than Mercedes, and of course Piastri looks... I think Piastri's the safer bet than Russell, especially with everything going on with Russell. Piastri all the way over Russell if you can afford him. Right, so what else do we got? Leclerc, Piastri better. Okay, so yeah, actually, you know, first poll of the week, the weekend. Let's do a poll, yeah. So Leclerc / Piastri or Norris / Sainz. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong one. / Sainz or Russell. And then let's put them down here. What are we saying, everyone? Because these are realistically the two teams that you could make this weekend if you can't afford Norris and Leclerc. And I think a lot of us who can't afford Norris and Leclerc this weekend now, because of having to get rid of Sargent as an inactive driver, have to push somewhere else like this. Right, the Zex. Hi, Zach. I have 90% of the same team. Leclerc, Norris, Bottas, Colapinto, Albon, Ferrari, McLaren, but with Lando instead of Piastri. So confused for this race. Would love to pivot to Red Bull, but they're usually so bad at Singapore. Honestly, I think even Red Bull here are going to struggle. They haven't looked amazing in practice 2 and practice 3. And with their straight line speed, they're going to get completely collapse in the race if they're not careful. Hey, no problem, Natalie. Happy to see you in the chat. Leclerc, Piastri, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it's winning 61% to 39. It's closer. It's quite close, to be fair. What's going on, Zach? I hate the game devs ruining the game. Yeah, honestly, it's been one of those things where they've always been like this. I remember, I think it was a season ago, I said, I made a whole video complaining about stuff as well. I honestly do think it's just one of those things where we have such like a nice community in F1 Fantasy. It's pretty big as well. Not as big as some other fantasy games, but it is big. I don't understand why they don't like. I mean, I don't really keep up to date with it, but do they do polls on this sort of stuff? I mean, I'd love if they just went on there, if they made an F1 Fantasy like Twitter, fully just F1 Fantasy, or like F1 Fantasy YouTube channel, and just put polls like, what should we do with Sargent as an inactive driver, and then let us pick, because we're picking. For some reason we know more than they know about how to run their own game. It's ridiculous, but yeah. Hopefully, the more people play, the more voices speak out, and the better the game gets. But yeah, we'll see what happens. So, Zach, do you think Colapinto or Bottas would be better for my team? Colapinto. Colapinto is the way to go, honestly. Bottas didn't actually look too bad in Italy, but it's just that Sauber, you know what I mean? You don't really want to have any Saubers on your team at all. So for me, that's what you do. Hey, for Fantasy Tools, good to see you in the chat. Lovely to see you as always. Everyone, of course, F1 Fantasy Tools I use it every single weekend, and when I'm creating videos as well, it's such a great asset to have. And also, I just love watching it because you know exactly what's going on. So support F1 Fantasy all the way. But right, let's have a look. Let's have a look on someone. What is your team for this week? So Matthias, right. I will I'll give hints about my team. So the poll going on at the minute with Leclerc and Piastri and Norris and Sainz has a little inkling to what my team will be. But I'm going to leave that one up to debate because I'm ending this live in about 15-20 minutes for another surprise. Shocker. But you'll see what it is. I believe, to be fair, I'm pretty sure I can tell you guys. Basically, a little hint. 2 weeks in a... 2 weeks? No, 2 race weekends in a row, baby. I'm very excited for it. It's going to be great. But that's why on this channel, the live stream will end a little bit early. But most people know exactly where to go. Right. What do you think about Leclerc, Norris, Colapinto, Bottas, show Ferrari, McLaren? Yeah, so 100%. Don't get this wrong. If you can afford Norris and Leclerc, you just stick with Norris and Leclerc. Then your 2 times option is a little bit difficult. I still think Norris is the safe option and Leclerc's the risky option. But it depends where you are in your season. Like, if you're fighting, say, in the top 500 and you want that differential, go for the Leclerc ×2. Or, say, for instance, you're in the below the top 50k and you need something to push you, Leclerc ×2. But I'd say if you're in that middle ground and you just want to play it safe, Norris ×2. Thoughts on DRS driver for each pairing? Leclerc looks like a good bet, but could also see the McLaren's... Oh, well, there you go, damn Jambo. That's my thinking on it. I will most likely... well, for me, it'll either be Leclerc ×2 or Norris ×2, but it depends what team I'm running, and you'll see that in an hour. Yeah, give F1 Fantasy Tools some love. We love them over here. Yeah, Michael, you might be onto something there. You'll see. You'll see. But yeah, I don't know. You might see me just disappear and just end up on that. I don't know how it happened. Hey, what do you think about the Leclerc, Norris, and McLaren Williams? McLaren Williams. I mean, I do understand that Williams look very good, but let me show you exactly why I never really like playing constructors in any different way. Because look, here Williams had a great weekend in Italy with Colapinto and Albon doing pretty well, and they still only scored 22 points. So when we look at a team like you were saying here, Leclerc and Norris will score brilliantly, but then you're going to miss out about 40 odd points, and that is a full Leclerc or Norris without their ×2. So I just don't think it's worth it, because then if you had McLaren and a better constructor, you could have Leclerc, and even if it was only a single premium driver team of like Albon and Colapinto, you would probably actually get around 50 odd points, and that you would only get 40 points from the other team. So it's like a 10-point differential. For this particular race, I disagree with many crashes. Zoe could be okay. Yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it? There will 100% be a few crashes. So anyone playing no negative, it's a good weekend to play it, especially if you have, like I said, especially if you have Magnussen and, let me get my team back up that I'm thinking of doing. Especially if you have Magnussen and Sargent, then it's 100% a great weekend for no negative. But my prediction is there's going to be at least 1 or 2 safety cars. Two, not even potentially 1, 2 is my prediction. Because from what we've seen in practice alone, oh, I do love it when it happens like that. But we'll see exactly how that plays out. Hi, Zach. Is Piastri better than Leclerc worth... Oh, no, Piastri... Is that Piastri and Leclerc? Worth a -10. I have Norris, Piastri, Magnussen, Colapinto, McLaren, Mercedes. Total budget 100... Yo! 128.7 million. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I think... Honestly, if you can afford to just... I don't think it's worth the -10. I think if you had a team like yours, Cacti, you would just stick with Norris, Piastri and do your free transfers. Of course, getting Magnussen out for Albon and Mercedes to Ferrari. And then you're good for it. For teams, Mercedes or Ferrari, still Ferrari. I think even though Russell showed a lot of pace, Leclerc's been on pole here 3 times. It's looking like he could be on pole again. I worry about their race pace, but that's just because McLaren look really good on the race pace. But I think it's one of those races, again like Monza, where Mercedes will do decent, but it's more of a McLaren-Ferrari fight. Yeah, go on then. Actually, we'll end the poll there. So people are saying Leclerc Piastri is a better option. Noted. Let's see what everyone's now saying. Better constructor. I've not spelt that right. My bad. Let me... Constructor, there it is. Ferrari. Mercedes. There we are. Okay, what are we saying? I mean, for me, it's 100% a Ferrari. I think it won't be close as well. I think Ferrari will bash Mercedes in the vote, but we'll see what people are saying. Russell or Piastri, considering Russell did good in free practice, it's just Russell has had a lot of potential issues that could come up. I mean, even in free practice, he was talking about a weird sound coming from his car. That's not something you want to hear in F1 Fantasy. And also, when Piastri is such a safe choice, especially for a second premium driver, if you can't afford him, he's a nice little driver to have in your team, and I would have him over. And I would have him over the likes of Russell. I don't know whether to pick Norris or Piastri. Norris has looked pretty bad this weekend, which has thrown me off. It's one of those things where, because he is in a championship fight, no matter how bad he looks, he will push to the max. So we're 100%. I'm telling you this right now. This is a Zach F1 guarantee. Norris is either getting top two in qualifying, or he's crashing out. He's not settling for any less. He's going to be pushing and crash out, or he's going to get top 2, because that's what you have to do on a championship. You have to push to the max. Now, if this doesn't happen, well then then I'm screwed. Hey Zach, would you take a -10 to take off Sargent, K-Mag, and replace George with Piastri or Leclerc. Yes, if you can't play no negative when you have both Magnussen and Sargent, 100% will happen, something like that. And replace. No, but actually, I see what you mean. Would you have to replace? Oh no, I see what you mean. Replace George Russell with him, yeah. But so I would take off Sergeant K-Mag, like you said, and then replace Russell with Leclerc, 100%. What would you do with 123.1 million? I have Norris, Russell, Sargent, Yuki, and Hulk with Mercedes and McLaren. So first off, you've got to get rid of Sargent. That's your main issue because that's going to be a minus 25 coming your way. So I've seen a lot of things saying minus 20, a few things saying minus 20. But basically, it's minus 5 for the qualifying and minus 20 for the race. It will tally up to minus 25 overall. So you have to. You have to very much. But then on top of that, I would say, honestly, you'd probably have to drop Yuki down to a Sauber and bring Sargent up to the other Sauber. Or Yuki down to Albon and Sargent up to someone else. And I think you'd have to stick with that for this weekend, John, because every other thing would be a potential issue. Long crash out then, Michael. Yeah, you might be right. I think you're going to be right. Average, medium, long runs, Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull have the same time. True, but it depends on where on the track they're better. Because honestly, if Red Bull have a terrible qualifying, say they're like 4th to 8th, and they've got really good pace through Sector 1 and Sector 2, it doesn't matter if they don't have the straight line speed to overtake on the long straight at the end. They'll just get stuck behind people. Would you use no negative of budget in would you use? Sorry, wait, hang on, Gary. Sorry, I'm not fully understanding that question. Sorry. What about Red Bull, McLaren, Norris plus Russell then? Oh, I wouldn't use Red Bull as a constructor this weekend. I still think it's very much Ferrari, McLaren's race to go for, especially as if we look over here, Red Bull's 29 million, Ferrari's 4.9 million less. You're saving so much money there, and that's the difference. That's the difference between a Russell and a Norris. And Ferrari and Red Bull are going to score at least similar points, or Ferrari's going to score more. I have to take out 2 inactive assets. Got in Red Bull as well instead of McLaren for minus 10 for a lineup of McLaren. Red Bull. Yes, I'm not the biggest fan of the Red Bull lineups. I mean, hopefully it works out for everyone who does use Red Bull, but I just don't see it happening this weekend. Then you got Norris, Piastri, Zhou, Albon, Colapinto. Yeah, so Colapinto, fine. Albon, fine. Zhou, dud driver, but that's fine. Norris, Piastri, they're good. They're good to have in your team, and I'm assuming you're going to then times 2 Norris. If you had to use your free times this week, who would you use it on? Oh, God. So, I will first say, please do not use your free times this week. This is one of the most crazy weekends to use it on because we have no idea. For me, there's 2 drivers you could put, like I said, 2 times on, Leclerc or Norris. And on a weekend where you don't know exactly who's going to be on pole, then you don't want to use 3 times. But for me, 3 times would probably be... Who am I liking more over Norris and Leclerc? I mean, Leclerc's look better in practice. So if we're going off practice, Leclerc times 3, Norris times 2. That's what I'd do. Who are the drivers worthy of a boost this weekend? DVS, what do you mean by that? I'll use no negative to keep Sargent with Leclerc and Lando. Yes. See, that's the thing. If that means, depending, Gary, if you already have 3 free transfers ready to go, just use the 3 free transfers, forget about it, move on. But that is a good option if you have the no negative, and then you times 2 Leclerc, and then you're good to go. My team now is Norris, Russell, Albon, Zhou, Colapinto, McLaren, and Mercedes, and don't know what to change. Norris to Leclerc, Mercedes to McLaren, Mercedes to Ferrari, or Albon, Bottas, Mercedes, Ferrari. Good options there. I think that's a hard one because that's basically the 2 teams I'm thinking of using, Ginteris. But I will probably go with the team I'm probably looking at more, which is changing Norris to Leclerc. Well, it's similar to your team. Norris to Leclerc then, and Mercedes to Ferrari. Ella Zach, I have Norris ×2, Russell, Hulkenberg, Albon, Colapinto, and McLaren for Mercedes. Do you suggest moving to Ferrari or Leclerc by removing Hulkenberg? Yeah, so what I would do, Nicolas, in your situation is probably drop someone like Hulkenberg down to a Zhou or a Bottas, and then increase Mercedes to Ferrari. And then if you have another free transfer, Russell to Leclerc. Or if you can't afford that, just do the Hulkenberg down to someone else. Bring up Mercedes to Ferrari and you're still fine. Okay, right, what is the time? 11:29. I have 5 to 10 more minutes left to be on this live stream. So let's keep on going. I'm going to show a little bit. I'll show again what my 2 options are as teams for anyone who wants to know. So let's bring them back in. Bob. So it's either this team or it will be... Because I basically don't want to take a -10. And I don't have no negative anymore. Or it will be this team. It's one or... Oh, no, never mind. Yeah, no, that team. It'll be one of these 2. So keep that in mind when you're looking out for my teams. Also, everyone, basically in half an hour, I will be over at FanAmp. So for anyone who wants to join me over there, feel free to. They're a great channel and privileged to be on it for the 2nd weekend in a row. So yeah, that was where I'll be in like half an hour, but I've still got 10 more minutes of this. So right, Sainz or Piastri as a ×2, Piastri as a ×2, although I wouldn't really want a ×2 either of them, but in that situation, Piastri. Leclerc, Piastri plus 3 times Williams and no negative, or Leclerc, Norris, Sargent, Bottas, Colapinto and no negative. I would go with Leclerc, Norris, Sargent, Bottas, Colapinto and no negative, because I really do think you have to have Leclerc and Norris. They're the 2 that are going to be the best, and you don't know which one. We don't know which one it's going to be. The timings are looking like it's going to be Leclerc, but yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Let me go back to this one as well. Actually, I'll leave these 3 empty for suspense. Right, what would you do with 117.2 million? Got Hamilton, Danny Rick, Yuki, Nico, Hulkenberg, Bottas, McLaren, and Mercedes constructors. Thinking of a wild card. Right, so for you, there's quite a few things I would do. So you've got to get rid of some of those expensive middle cheap drivers. So Danny Rick, he's got to go. Danny Rick and Yuki have got to go, and they've got to be dropped to cheaper teams. So cheaper drivers, I mean. So Colapinto and Zhou should be what you're aiming for. Then with that extra money you get, you really want to be going up from Mercedes to a Ferrari, and then you really want to be increasing Hamilton to at least a Leclerc or Leclerc or Norris. Now, if you can get 2 premium drivers, it's going to be close. Let's see if you can, because I believe if you did Leclerc, Piastri, because if you could wildcard, if you do want a wildcard, I believe you could do. Can you fit in a team like this? No, you can't afford that team. Yeah, you're in a real sticky situation. I wouldn't recommend wildcarding. You still need to get a little bit more money before you do that. But we'll see what happens. Right. Yep, need some advice. So this is for Simone. My team now is McLaren, Haas, Norris, Hamilton, Colapinto, Hulkenberg, Albon. 6 million remaining. Should I swap Leclerc and Hamilton, or should I go for... I would take the -10 and go to McLaren, Mercedes, Norris, Russell. No, my bad. Oh, see, that's the thing. For both teams, you need to swap out. You need to get rid of Haas. McLaren and Haas. You need to bring in at least a Mercedes or Ferrari. And then, yeah. My preference would be to go from Haas to... But I see what you mean. Yeah. So, yeah, take the -10 and go to McLaren and Mercedes, Norris, Russell, Colapinto, Zhou, and Bottas. That's what I could do. Right. Force on Leclerc, Norris, Albon, Colapinto, Hulkenberg, McLaren, and Ferrari. That's my team right now. So, real, that is the best team you can probably get out of this weekend, 100%. Keep with it. Honestly, if I could have that team, I would. Also, gotta love the Team 3. I have not changed Team 3 since the first weekend. purely because that is basically the team I wanted to have this weekend, but I just can't afford to have it. So 100%. Yeah, morning everyone, morning. Right, so I have 3 more minutes. Let's get some things. Is it worth to go for a -10 to swap Mercedes to Ferrari? I believe so. I think Ferrari will score more than a 10-point gap advantage to Mercedes. Choose Joe instead of Bottas since he starts at the end of the grid, so no negative points. That is true, actually. That is very true, and also it means he's most likely not going to be in a tangle. Yeah, actually, you know what? Final poll of the live stream. Bottas or Joe? Which one is better? Because you're actually completely right on if Bottas just starts at the back and there's loads of crashes, he's always about a lap behind everyone, so who can he crash with? I'm not going to jinx it, so I'm going to fingers cross it. When to wildcard? So you can wildcard this weekend. It's one of those things where if you're going to wildcard, it has to be to a really good team. So for me, wildcarding always is when you have enough to go from a single premium driver build to a 2 premium driver build. And then you need that quick turnaround of, okay, I can do this now, let's change over. So for someone who still can't really afford the 2 premium driver builds, I would steer clear of it just for now. Yeah, that is true. He's been better in the last 5 to 7 races, but he could get tangled up if he starts in the midfield. That's the scary thought, isn't it? Also, I still have all chips available. This is my first time. Oh, hello. Okay, Simone. Yeah, you're going to want to use all of those in the sprint races coming up. So we'll see what happens with that. Especially, yeah, actually, if you've got all of your chips, if you've got like Sargent and Magnussen. Oh, wait, did I talk about your team already, Simone? Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah, wildcard could be a thing then, Simone. But only for a -10 is a bit like, a bit dodgy. Right. Right, where was I? Yes, first cut. Russell plus Bottas versus Stroll plus Hulkenberg. Or should I split Russell and upgrade my C assets? So I would go for Russell and Bottas. 100% first cut. 100 million gazillion %. Wow, okay. 74% of people are saying Bottas is better than Joe for this weekend. This is making it really interesting. Right, how do I get rid of that on there? That's how I do that. Right, Hulkenberg with Mercedes or McLaren, or Albon with Ferrari or McLaren? Oh, 100% Albon with Ferrari and McLaren. Might I just add, cheap driver-wise, yeah? Albon is looking fantastic. I can't stress this enough. Yep, see you in a bit, Michael. Yeah, it's going to be good fun over at FanApp. I can't stress this enough, yeah? Cheap driver-wise, Williams look the best. You really want to have Colapinto and Albon in your team. So I would pick Albon over Hulkenberg. Just look how good he was doing. Like 8th place, 8th and 9th. And if they can keep that, that's a guaranteed 5+ points from both of them. Then again, where did they come in? Free practice? Yeah, 13th, 14th. Still not bad. And then practice 1 doesn't matter. Does no negative negate Sargent's inactive penalties? Honestly, we've never had a situation like this. So I've always said do it at your own risk because that's the only thing you really can do. But for me, it should work. If it doesn't work, they have such a massive issue on their hands, F1 Fantasy. But it should work because realistically, it's every negative point. So it should work like that. Is it worth -10 for switching in Leclerc, Joe, and Ferrari instead of Sainz, Hulk, Mercedes? Yes. A -10 there, KBL, 100% is worth it. Hi, Zach. How you doing? Thank you very much. Hope you're doing well as well. What do you think on having 3 B drivers? So Leclerc, Russell, Alonso, Colapinto, Albon, McLaren, and Ferrari. Yeah, that's not a bad team. It's just I don't see the need to have Alonso. You know what I mean? It's a little bit of an issue I see because you've got quite a bit of money. And Leclerc Russell is good, but it's one of those situations where Alonso is not going to be getting much more money than the likes of Hulkenberg, even like Ricciardo's. So I think there it's better to just have that cheaper and have Leclerc and Norris because then you're covering both grounds on the 2x asset. What team are you going for? So I'm either going to be running a team with Leclerc, Piastri, and Bottas, or Norris, Russell, Bottas. And then all of the same thing applies on the team. We like hearing you. Yeah, no, of course. That's why I was I was fine to. I was happy to get onto my stream here as well. But I really do enjoy going over there as well. But anyway, thank you. Final call: Joe versus Bottas. From the looks of things, Bottas is winning. Yeah, final call on Bottas. So there you go. Right, everyone. I will be gone for the next 20-ish minutes, but come join me on FanAmp. We are going to have a great live stream there as well. Second race weekend in a row, I'm over there. It was quite on the whim thing. Oh yeah. I didn't think I'd be on this race weekend as well. That's why I thought I'd be back on this live stream. But that's why I came here a bit earlier and came onto my own channel as well to give you guys a bit more before as well. Would you take a -10 to bring in Leclerc or Russell? Yes, I would. But anyway, thank you all so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure as always. And hopefully I'll see all of you over at FanAmp and we'll have a great time over there as well. See you all later. Get those teams ready.